This resume got me 20 plus interviews at Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, IBM, Stripe, Dropbox, and many other top tech companies. In this video, I'll be showing you exactly how to create your own resume that will get you noticed in today's competitive job market and what I would do differently in my own resume if I were applying to a new grad role in 2025. Hi friends, I'm Maddie. I'm a senior software engineer. I got my bachelor's in computer science and engineering from MIT and previously worked at Google as a software engineer. Before that, I interned at companies including Amazon, IBM, Microsoft, and Morgan Stanley. I've hosted dozens of resume workshops while at Google, and on my Instagram, I've given resume advice and helped some of my followers with their own resumes. So if that interests you, feel free to find me on Instagram, and if you want me to reveal the very cringy resumes that I've submitted and written over the years, go ahead and give this a like and subscribe, and I might do that. Today though, I'll be sharing the exact resume I used when I was applying for new grad roles in 2020 and talk about what worked and what I would change if I were to go through the entire process again in 2025. I'll be breaking it down into these sections: ATS, header, education, job experience, projects, leadership, and technical skills. Before we dive in deeper, let's talk about why your resume is so important. Your resume is the first impression that your recruiter has of you, and a recruiter will take an average of 6 seconds to decide whether or not you're worth interviewing. So it's not just part of your application, it's that key to getting the initial foot in the door. And in today's job market, recruiters aren't actually manually looking at your resume. Many use ATS, or applicant tracking system, to screen resumes for them. ATS is an automated software used to filter, organize, and manage job applications by scanning resumes for keywords, format, and relevant experience. This happens before a recruiter even looks at the resume. This means that if your resume isn't optimized for ATS, it might get rejected before a human ever sees it. So how do you stop this auto rejection before you even get your resume in front of a human? First, use an ATS-friendly resume template. You can find a lot of these online. I personally love LaTeX or LaTeX or however you pronounce it, so mine is one that I found by searching LaTeX resume template ATS friendly on Google. These templates have a clean, minimalist design, so the system can easily read and extract your information. If ATS can't recognize something, it might skip over important keywords or qualifications. So honestly, the simpler the better. Next, use standard section headers. I recommend sticking only to education, job experience, projects, leadership, and technical skills. Avoid fancy graphics or templates. Most ATS systems can't actually read those columns, tables, headers, or images. So even if you have a sleek 2-column resume that you think looks great visually, do not use it. Instead, stick to a single-column text-based layout. Also, don't use fancy fonts. Use standard ones like Arial or Calibri. Tailor your resume to each job description. Keywords matter, and ATS systems will look for matches between the listing and your resume. For example, let's take this Microsoft job listing. I mentioned several languages that ask for C#, JavaScript, Python, and I talk about building visualization tools in a previous internship. You have an advantage that I didn't have when I was applying to new grad roles in 2019. AI tools. AI tools like ChatGPT, Resume Worded, and Teal can help optimize resumes by extracting relevant keywords, suggesting better phrasing, and even generating bullet points based on job descriptions. Don't panic if you don't meet all of the preferred qualifications. They're often a nice to have instead of a deal breaker if you don't have them. Last but not least, when you are done drafting your resume, run your completed resume through an ATS checker. For example, websites like JobScan, Resume Worded, and My Perfect Resume offer free checkers. Now let's talk about your resume section by section. At the top of your resume, we have your header contact section. First, obviously, put your name. I was told a long time ago that having a middle initial might add value if you have a common name like mine. To be honest, I'm not sure if that actually makes a difference, but I've kept it there ever since the first year of university. Below your name, as you can see here, well, I blurred it out so you can't actually see, include phone number, email, and if you would like, GitHub and LinkedIn, even though those aren't too necessary. Some people put way too much information in this section. Avoid extra information. I've seen candidates include things like a headshot, social media profiles, and marital status. Leave this out if you're applying for roles in the United States. It's completely unnecessary. As a side note, some people have a summary section, which is 2 to 3 sentences that highlight their experience, key skills, and major accomplishments. I actually do not recommend you include this. You can instead show what you have expertise on in your jobs and projects section and get in the relevant keywords there. And recruiters often will will not have the time to read this part anyway, so it's just more clutter for no purpose. Next, let's talk about the education section. Keep this short and sweet. I put down my MIT expected graduation date since I was in my last year at university while searching for new grad roles, my degree, and relevant classes. Make sure to mention that you've taken data structure and algorithms here. Companies like Google use this as a keyword to filter internship and new grad candidates. If I were redoing this for 2025, I'd probably condense this list of classes a bit and emphasize the AI ML classes. It's totally fine to abbreviate degrees like BS or BA instead of writing out Bachelor of Science, Bachelor of Arts. The recruiter will obviously know what you're talking about here. I personally didn't put my GPA here, but you can if you'd like. However, it's definitely not required. If you're a bootcamp graduate, focus on the project that you've completed and the specific technologies and frameworks that you've mastered here rather than the bootcamp itself. Next, for work experience, this is probably the most important part of your resume. Make sure it's in reverse chronological order. For each role, include your job title, company name, location, and date, 2 to 4 bullet points focusing on your impact and achievements. In those bullet points, use the STAR method, which stands for situation, task, action, and results. Start by providing context for your work, outlining your specific responsibility, detailing the actions you took, and emphasizing measurable, quantifiable results. Always use numbers to show your impact whenever possible. Use metrics to highlight performance improvements, efficiency gains, or business impact. For example, here, instead of just saying coded a dashboard and created a data model for trade liquidity calculations, I said developed a ClickView dashboard and optimized the trade model data schema for trade liquidity calculations, reducing manual report generation time by 10%. Also, for each bullet point, try to use action verbs instead of more passive language. So for example, engineered, architected, spearheaded, coded, transformed is better than worked on or helped out with. Again, in these bullet points, if your experience fits the job description, you can emphasize the relevant frameworks, technologies, and keywords. If I were to redo this, I'd actually go ahead and bold the languages and frameworks that I want the recruiter to see. For example, Pandas, Django, ClickView. And as a side note, it's totally okay if you don't have any previous internships. If this is the case and you've done research or were a teaching assistant, put them here. I've included my research at MIT D-Lab, but chose to leave out my computational cognitive science course staff position out for space reasons. Next, let's talk about the projects. In this section, you will want to include 2 to 3 of your most impressive projects. If you have less work experience, flesh out this section more, but if you have more extensive work experience, you might not need to focus on this section as much. Looking back, I definitely should have reworked this section and added more information about the languages and technologies. For example, FoosRank used not just React, but also Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. Zoomrod used Unity, C#, and Oculus SDK. If I were to redo the last years of university with projects in mind in 2025, I would pick more AI-related projects and showcase them here. I would also do more open source project work. For your leadership section, if you had any exec roles in clubs, put them here. You can put down roles in both non-technical and technical clubs. For example, I was marketing director for machine intelligence community, which is now called AI at MIT, and I was also on the exec committee for Code for Good Consulting, which are obviously technical. However, I also included that I was the PR director for Syncopation, my a cappella group, and president of MIT Model United Nations, which are both not technical at all. Here, it's more important for recruiters to see your leadership and soft skills rather than just that you coded a lot. For your technical skills section, I grouped them by language and software and tools. Definitely list any software, framework, and languages that you know well, and I would say you can even list anything that you've done at least one project on. Basically, anything that you could talk about and elaborate more on if the recruiter asked you about it. For example, I made some video game prototypes in C# and Unity, so I included those there. I also want to give some general tips and do's and don'ts. Don't straight up lie. You can embellish, but don't just make stuff up. This means if you didn't actually work somewhere, don't write that you worked there. Also, don't make up start and end dates. This might come up in a background check, and if the recruiter notices, they might actually rescind the offer, so just don't do this. However, you can definitely exaggerate and embellish a little bit of what you've done as long as you understand the work and you can explain it if the recruiter asks you follow-up questions. Don't include irrelevant or outdated information, high school awards, or unrelated hobbies unless they're really impressive. These will just take up unnecessary space. Keep it concise and relevant, and as you continue on in your career and in your university journey, remove less impressive experiences. Keep your resume to 1 page long total. As a new grad, unless there are extenuating circumstances, you really shouldn't need more than 1 page to list your relevant work and stats. And finally, proofread. This might seem so obvious, but I definitely see a lot of people get tripped up by small typos or formatting inconsistencies in resumes that I reviewed. A clean, polished resume makes a huge difference in how professional you come across. Definitely get your peers and friends to look through your resume even if you don't think there's any mistakes. And that's all I have for you in this video. Hope that you can take these tips and get your resume noticed by recruiters. If you found this video helpful, feel free to hit that like button and subscribe for more software engineering career advice. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.